Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Welcome to Module 4, the Heart Chakra. I am talking with you without camera today. Some of you know that I've been dealing with some back issues. And so I just wanted to welcome our beautiful Heart Chakra guest speaker, Anja Sofia Churchill. Who is going to tell us more about her path as a heart chakra representative, as a Kundalini teacher, as a spiritual guide. I have met Anja through some program that we were both taking around nutrition a few years back, and I just really loved her energy and her wisdom. She actually, she's one of those younger one. She's not that much younger at this point. It was a few years ago, but at the time we had a little bit of an age difference, and I was like, oh my goodness, she has so much wisdom, for a shorter lived life. And I'm sure she's going to explain to us how she came about really stepping into this path. But now giving you Anja. Hello, my dear. Welcome, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be part of your program. Yeah.
So would you like, Anja, to tell us in your words who you are now and how did you get onto this journey?
Yeah. So I am first and foremost a transformation facilitator. So I work with the tools of Kundalini yoga, with shamanic practices. I work now with a method that I've created through my own life and experience called the Inner Anahata method. And really, I was brought to this path of healing and supporting people to transform deep wounds, deep pain, deep trauma, and really helping people to access the fullest potential which is inside of them through my own personal healing. So when I was 11 years old, I became very, very, very sick. And I was misdiagnosed and traveled all over the country and to see different physicians, different doctors. And I ended up being deathly ill for about 10 years. Deathly ill for 8 years and very ill for 10 years. And during my teen years, I was essentially bedridden and had several near-death experiences, which really shaped my understanding of the self and the value of a human life and what is really, really, truly important. And like so many people that have had near-death experiences, I had some crucial awakening moments where I was passing between the veil, so to speak, of life and death, and actually experienced my true essence for moments, for fleeting moments. And those experiences of really connecting with my truest spiritual essence, which for me, I literally looked down into my body dissolved, and I saw a flame inside the center of my chest. And I saw all of the spirits of my ancestors, and I saw the other side. And I realized when I saw that flame inside of myself that I could never die, that I was actually deathless. And I was 16 when I had that first realization. And after that experience, I came back and began to heal really quickly for an intense short period of time, because I had had this glimpse of who I really was, which was just exquisite and incredible. And since that time, I have had then traveled the world and studied many, many different alternative healing modalities. And I've been in the process of writing a book for the past 8 years, really all about how one can transform the limitations that we face in this life through entering the portal of the heart and connecting with our essence, which is that deathless aspect inside of us. So that's a little bit about my story and a little bit about what has brought me to where I am right now.
Wow. I have chills all over my body. I actually never heard you. I knew that you had been dealing with a lot of physical issues and illness, but I never heard the root story. Oh, so beautiful. you would see my face. I have a huge smile on it right now. I feel
Yeah,
like,
it's interesting how the painful things, the most painful, are oftentimes the end up being the most joyful.
right.
Yeah.
I feel very pulled to ask you questions around fear, because I've been bedridden for a few days myself right now with some debilitating lower back pain, which is something I've experienced in different fashions over my years, um, and just really looking at the influence of fear that is created by the mind, um, and perhaps rooted in past trauma. Uh, Either childhood or teenage time or young adults trauma, um, and how that can be really in the way of us healing properly. Would you say something
Hmm.
about that?
Yeah, absolutely. In my experience, the fear is the, it's interesting. Fear is the ultimate ghost, right? Because fear is, like you're talking about, this fear that comes up in the body from past trauma. It's the echo of something which oftentimes was an experience which was quite serious or threatening to our existence or our safety. And usually in those moments, like I'm sure you know how the trauma mechanism works. In the moment when we face trauma, normally we don't actually feel afraid. We're just in shock. We have that sort of schism of the psyche where like we feel like we're being sort of broken apart. We're in shock. And it's only afterwards that we develop fear, like that true fear, which stops us from moving forward. And that can be applied to the physical trauma of something, or the fear of failure. You had an experience once where you were let down in some way, or you didn't show up to your fullest or your best, and then the aftermath of that experience made you felt awful about yourself, and then you don't want to try again, right? So fear to me is this ultimate ghost. It is it's like the living essence, the living tissue of something which has been, I don't want to say broken, but sort of disconnected within us. And fear is such an opportunity to go into that space, wherever it is, whether it's in the body or in the mind or in the heart, and bring those pieces back together again. So fear is this amazing invitation for wholeness. And it's, I truly feel like working with fear is the ultimate key to healing, and it's the ultimate key to, yeah, to living our to living our fullest potential.
Mm. So how would you, if one is stuck in that experience of fear, how would you advise them to work through, to be able to relax, let go, and come back into trust?
Yeah. Well, the first thing to know about fear is that um, fear is something that exists inside of us, right? And it's a part of us. It's part of our experience. And so the first thing to remember is to not to reject it and not to push it away and not to say, okay, fear, get out of here. You're not a part of me and you're bad and I'm going to sequester you and you're not allowed to be part of your experience. The way forward is in welcoming the fear and acknowledging the fear. I see you. I hear you. What is it that you want to tell me? What is it that you are afraid of? Fear. Tell me, show me. What is it that you're trying to help me with? What is your gift to me? Fear, because all of the emotions and energy inside of us, they're just voices, aspects of the psyche that are trying to be heard. So the first step is in acknowledging the fear and even welcoming the fear, saying, fear, I welcome you at my table. And that takes tremendous courage to move towards the fear with this loving open arms. And once you've gone through the process of really listening to the fear and bringing it into the sense of wholeness within you, then comes whatever healing process needs to happen. So then, you may find that you need to do some real emotional healing work around some wound, or you may find that you really need to, it's time to really let go of something. It's time to really let go of a certain belief that is pulling this fear, that's leading this fear. But the very first step is in welcoming the fear, like a child, really. And because fear has, in your case, Yemaya, like you're having such a perfect example of this right now, right? That the body, the nervous system, like the nervous system is like a child, and fear in the nervous system needs to be treated like a child, needs to be surrounded with love and nurturing. And that's our biggest task ultimately in healing, is bringing as much of our love to our fear as we can. And it's not about fighting fear with love, right? It's not about bringing your love in to fight the fear, but it's about bringing the love in to envelop the fear, bringing in your wisest, most holy self to hold that fear. And then from there, at that point, then tells you, okay, I need to seek expert help. I need to seek professional help. I need to go to the emergency room. I need to go see a therapist. I need to make these changes in my life. Then at that point, then we need to muster the courage to say, okay, fear, I've seen you. I've heard you. And now my spirit is going to move forward with these actions to create self-healing. And you're not going to run the show anymore. So, yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it. Very beautiful. There is other places I want to visit with you, but because you mentioned the word courage a couple of times just now, I always love that word, and you're in France right now, which is very appropriate, because if you split it in the words, in the roots of the words, it's the rage in the heart, courage, the like rage in the heart. And it's interesting, because we just went through this module 3, which was expressing, and where, in the solar plexus, we work with that fiery expression of anger and rage sometimes to get us, moving, to get us out of possible depression, and
Yeah.
and then as we're moving up the upper chakras, we're starting to really look deeply at expressing our gift and expressing our purpose. And I find that sometimes, having la rage au cœur, rage in the heart is taking us places, giving us the strength to look at manifesting, creating things that are strong for the world, strong remedies, we'll call them, like strong remedies.
Yes.
So yeah, I wonder if you have anything to say about courage and about that little bit more fiery aspect that could be leading us to be courageous in our choices.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I hadn't thought about that. Cœur, and what was it? Like cœur as heart, and then like rage. Rage. Yeah, I am such a firm believer that all of the work that I do is around this belief that our heart is the portal to our purpose, and our heart is the portal to our intuition. And we get our intuition and our strong knowings. We can feel that from our third chakra. We can feel that from our solar plexus, from our gut knowing, right? We can feel that from our sixth chakra, from our sort of vision and that sort of clairvoyance. But the heart is really where when you know. And yeah, this concept of the fire in the heart is so true and so beautiful. And I'm just feeling like I'm feeling it so strongly, like I'm feeling it, like how, for example, in my life, I live my life following my intuition. This is the rule that I've created in my life. And I truly live a miraculous life because I follow my intuition. And I follow my intuition specifically from my heart. And it takes such courage. It takes such strength to express and listen to that gut knowing, and then really bring it up to the heart, to this feeling, this calling within you, and then to take action from your heart. That is the most courageous thing that I know of. Right now I'm running this 3-month program called Heart Warrior. And we're focusing a lot on this energy of tuning into your intuition, tuning into your purpose through the portal of the heart, and taking that action. And that is scary. We are immediately faced with the reality of fear when we follow the unconditional nature of our heart's yearning, because the world is not a friendly place to people who go out into the unknown and follow their heart. For all of the Hallmark cards and the movies and the, everything that, all of the messaging in our pop culture that says, follow your heart and trust yourself. When push comes to shove and you're really taking that aligned action from your heart, and you have the courage, you have that fire in the heart to do what you need to do, or to let go of what you need to let go of. Like if you've ever been in a relationship and you just knew it wasn't the right relationship, or in a job and you just realized, okay, I need to be in this part of my work and I can't be doing that anymore. And you had the courage to go for that. The world will react how it reacts. And sometimes it's unfriendly and sometimes it's scary. And true courage and following our heart is when we move forward anyway. And that's how I believe that's how we create miracles in our lives. That's how I create miracles in my life, is by continuously moving from that fire in the heart, no matter what. And that's badass right there, Am I rambling too much?
No, it's beautiful. It's perfect. Yeah, that's badass right there.
And sometimes it sucks, but isn't it better to be following the courage of your heart and your own convictions, and to know that you're doing something really valuable and on purpose?
Yeah. Oh,
comfortable, acceptable place in your life, and to not feel connected to your heart.
You just froze for a second, like something about following, your purpose, and instead of.
What was the last thing that you heard me say?
So instead of, and you are going to describe, what is it like to not live purposefully, I guess.
Right. And living a quiet, acceptable, very pleasant existence where you're not connected to your heart, where you are approved of by everybody, and yet you're not connected to what you want, what your knowing is, who you are, your deeper self. And I think that's the dilemma of our times. Yeah.
Yeah, Heart Warriors. Yeah, that is a good title. Your program. Would you say something around unconditional, unconditional love, and especially unconditional self-love, which is really, I feel like that's also at the root essence of my work in the world, is helping us re-educate ourselves, reopen ourselves to something that should be, ingrained in us, and which has been almost beaten out of us, in our society. That ability to unconditionally love ourselves. Sorry. It seems like an incredible key response to so many challenges in our lives. Yeah.
That's beautiful and important thing necessary to touch on. This developing of unconditional love is so key to our times, and it's so necessary, and also so challenging, because almost all of us as children were not shown unconditional love in some way. If we were very lucky, we were shown unconditional love by our parents consistently throughout childhood. But usually at some point we learned as children that we were not acceptable in some form, or we were not enough in some way, or something, we needed to do something in order to be fully ourselves. And even this carries over into the spirit, I find, into the spiritual communities and spiritual teachings of, you need to do this in order to be worthy. You need to do X number of meditations, or you need to be, that type of judgment doesn't discriminate between any type of societal structure. So really, if we're talking about unconditional self-love, right? Unconditional self-love is this incredible, powerful mechanism that we have to learn as adults, relearn, because we experience this when we are very, very young, usually, but we have to relearn this mechanism when we're adults of fully embracing everything that we are and everything that we are not, and fully looking and feeling and listening inside of ourselves to the entirety of our being, and opening up a greater and a greater and a greater space of love within ourselves to allow ourselves to be just as we are. And we can talk about this in a million different ways, through a million different techniques, through a million different languages. But ultimately, it's about this creating of space within ourselves to hold everything that we are and to hold everything that we will become. And when we feel like we are not able to hold lovingly something within us, let's say we feel like we can't forgive ourselves for something, or there's just something about us, ourselves, that we just don't like, or we're irritated by, or we're fearful about, then unconditional love, having unconditional love for ourselves, means holding that and holding love for our inability to forgive ourselves, or holding love for our inability for that imperfection and for that self-judgment, right? So unconditional love is this infinitely ever expanding capacity to hold oneself in the state of compassion and love. Yeah.
I love that. I was working with a couple the other day, like a relationship consult, and we were, I was advising them to, like at some point, one has to become the bigger person, right? And so like that, the bigger person is coming and surrounding the whole scene, as like a bigger energy. And so what you're describing right now with the unconditional self-love is the same thing. That is a part of us that needs to become bigger than the part that is judging or failing, and be able to hold that part with love. Yeah, so it's like growing a deeper or a wider wingspan of love around ourselves. That's the way I'm receiving what you're sharing right now.
Yeah, I love that. I love that image of the wingspan, because that's what it is. And I love that you gave that to that image of being bigger in that sense with that couple. Because really, if we can only hold that loving space with somebody else to the degree that we can fully hold that loving space within ourselves. And like I said, it doesn't mean that everything has to be beautiful and rosy. We have real shit. We have real problems that we deal with, and we have real traumas, and we have real ways in which we reject ourselves. And it's our ability to hold our own rejection with love. That's what creates the magic of unconditional love. So then when we can do that with another person, if we can hold our rejection or our discomfort or our conflict with love, right? If we can hold that other person, that's when I feel like that's the frontier of our conscious relationships. Yeah.
So I think I have one more question for you, Anja, which I think would wrap things up for us today. But so to be able to hold, that rejection of the other, of the world, of self, where do you find the source of that power? Where do you tap into to find the source of that ability?
Yeah, so two things immediately come to mind. One is very naturally through experiencing our own pain and sitting with our own pain. So if you are somebody listening to this that has been through a very, very difficult time in your life, and you at some point, and you have a memory of sitting with that difficulty without needing to change it, you will notice that during those times you start to develop this capacity just by being, just by being with what is difficult. And that is the tremendous gift. That is the infinite gift of going through really, really hard challenges. And I know it's it's so ridiculous that I'm telling you this right now and you're lying down with your back hurting. And it's like, if someone were to remind me of that when I'm in severe pain, I might say, go, I hear you, but piss off because I'm in pain. But I can still say it because I have been there. So, the one way to cultivate that unconditional love is through being present through difficulty. And that is the gift of difficulty. The other way.
I'm losing your sound a little bit.
Oh, can you hear me?
For some reason, it's not as loud.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes? No?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the other way to develop this capacity is through meditation. And it doesn't matter what type of meditation practice you do, but any conscious practice where you are choosing to be with yourself no matter what. That's the biggest gift I think we can give ourselves to cultivate unconditional love.
Be with yourself no matter what.
Yeah, don't abandon yourself for anything. Don't let pain make you abandon yourself.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, we've done a lot of work around the abandonment that we survived, in our childhood when we were in module 2 in the second chakra, and I think it's beautiful to amp it up to looking at how we abandon ourselves or how we keep showing up for ourselves in this module.
Yeah.
Chakra.
Yeah, and one last thing that's important to share about the heart is that working with the energy of one's own heart and unconditional love and connecting with one's essence is so intimately personal. It's really about going deep, 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 deep within oneself. And yet the heart chakra is where we bridge our self and our personal experience and our connectivity with the world and our service with the world and our relationships with the world. And I always like to think of this kind of shamanic metaphor of how when we really, really go deep, deep within ourselves, the microcosm becomes the macrocosm. And when we have that deep compassion for ourselves, we feel this interconnectedness to all of life. That it's not mutually exclusive. Sitting with your pain and not reacting to your pain and really holding the love for yourself. That in turn increases our compassion and our interconnectivity with all of life, and in the way that we serve and the way that we show up in our families and our relationships. And that is just gold to me.
Just taking a beautiful deep breath. Thank you so much, beautiful, dear friend.
Thank you.
Yeah, so beautiful. And thank you, all of you that are watching now, for your own heart journey. I think we're very fortunate. We're going to have a live question and answer with Anja next week. I'm really looking forward to that. Anja, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. I'm going to stop the recording now and say goodbye to you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, my dear.